Hey there, welcome. This is a special edition of classes here that apply to all my classes. So I'm not going to say any specific class things because it's going to be a general video. Often in the face-to-face class world, I start classes or early in a class period by reading some stuff, reading great writers, reading poetry, and often not to analyze it or write about it, but just to let the art flow over you, man. You know, just to put out beautiful words or amazing thoughts, or get you inspired to do your own reading, get you inspired to read these things, and give you things to think about. Because one of the things that I feel is important about a class in writing is to immerse you in the world of ideas. And the world of ideas that I want to immerse you in is the things that I'm interested in sharing. Because the world of ideas is immense. And I'm interested in everything, but there are certain things I'm more interested in others because of certain time periods, and other things that I'm more interested in all along, you know. So two things. This is a short video, short-ish, you know, comparatively. So I have many books on writing, and I may share some of these in the future, but one of my absolute favorite books that's inspired me the most is by one of the greatest writers that we have in the English language in America in the 20th century and into the 21st century, so I think she's still alive. I didn't check that. Annie Dillard. And Annie Dillard is famous for American Childhood, A Pilgrim at Tinker Creek. She's an outstanding, powerful writer. And this is her book, The Writing Life. It's not a very thick book, but it has actually it has three passages that I always read, but I'm going to spare you the longer one and just read you the shorter ones. And unfortunately, I don't have this on the screen. The next thing I have is going to be on the screen. But words to inspire us about writing. Who will teach me to write? A reader wanted to know. The page. The page, that eternal blankness. The blankness of eternity which you cover slowly, affirming time's scrawl as a right and your daring is necessity. The page which you cover woodenly, ruining it, but asserting your freedom and power to act, acknowledging that you ruin everything you touch, but touching it nevertheless, because acting is better than being here in mere opacity. The page, which you cover slowly with the crabbed thread of your gut. The page, in the purity of its possibilities. The page of your death, against which you pit such flawed excellences as you can muster with all your life's strength. That page will teach you to write. There's another way of saying this. Aim for the chopping block. If you aim for the wood, you'll have nothing. Aim past the wood, aim through the wood, aim for the chopping block. And see, I just like to hang these words out there. I don't really want to explain what that means. I want you to actually rewind the video and play it again and think, you know, what does that mean? And so this other little bit. A well-known writer got collared by a university student who asked, "Do you think I could be a writer?" Well, the writer said, "I don't know. Do you like sentences?" The writer could see the student's amazement. Sentences? Do I like sentences? I'm 20 years old. Do I like sentences? If he had liked sentences, of course, he could begin. Like a joyful painter I knew, I asked him how he came to be a painter. He said, "I like the smell of paint." So do you like sentences? Do you like words? That's the calling. So I always realized that I could either be a writer, because I love words, I love sentences, I love stories, or I could be a fisherman, because I love the smell of fish. Fishmonger, popular word right now. All right, other thing that so I do these things on the first day of class typically to inspire students, and so here are those things. And the other thing is sharing some stuff about Mr. Walt Whitman. And Walt Whitman is one of the greatest poets that we have um, from the English language. And I want to share some things about Whitman. So I grabbed some stuff out of Wikipedia because, you know, it is often accurate. Whitman, 19th century, pretty much the entire 19th century, 1819 to 1892. Poet, essayist, journalist, humanist, transition between transcendentalism and realism, known for his free verse, and known for this book called Leaves of Grass, which was described as obscene and in its overt sexuality. Whitman, in his own life, came under scrutiny for his presumed homosexuality. Stuff about Whitman, go read it. You know, this is where we get "Oh Captain, My Captain." This stuff was featured in Dead Poets Society. Down here, modernist poet Ezra Pound called Whitman America's poet. He is America. So he wrote openly about death, sexuality, prostitution. He's labeled as the father of free verse, but he didn't invent it. One of his most famous poems, which I'm going to read you parts of, is Song of Myself. And he was writing about the symbiotic relationship between the poet and society, which he emphasized in Song of Myself by using an all-powerful first-person narration as an American epic. It deviated from the historic use of the elevated hero and instead assumed the identity of the common people. Leaves of Grass also responded to the impact to the recent urbanization in the United States had on the masses. And so then there's other stuff here of people lauding Whitman, such as Langston Hughes, who wrote, "I too sing America. Whitman was a literary hero." Literary critic Harold Bloom wrote on the 150th anniversary of the book Leaves of Grass, "If you're an American, then Walt Whitman is your imaginative father and mother. Even if, like myself, you have never composed a line of verse, you can nominate a fair number of literary works as candidates for the secular scripture of the United States. They might include Melville's Moby Dick, Twain's Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, and Emerson's 2 series of essays, and The Conduct of Life. None of those, not even Emerson's, are as central as the first edition of Leaves of Grass." More stuff, Beats, inspired the Beats, Allen Ginsberg, Jack Kerouac, Lawrence Ferlinghetti, etc., Adrian Rich, Gary Snyder. If you're interested in writing, if you're interested in poetry, these are people to check out, especially if you haven't checked out the Beats. Lots of, particularly college students, really get turned on by the Beats. I did when I was in college. Whitman also influenced Bram Stoker, author of Dracula, and was the model for the character of Dracula. Stoker said in his notes that Dracula represented the quintessential male, which to Stoker was Whitman, with whom he corresponded until Whitman's death. Whitman paid for the publication of the first Leaves of Grass himself, a total of 795 copies. No name is given as the author, but about 500 lines in, he calls himself Walt Whitman, an American, one of the roughs, a cosmos, disorderly, fleshy, and sensual, no sentimentalist, no standard above men or women apart from them, no more modest than immodest. He kept revising Leaves of Grass throughout his life. He brought out a second edition in 1856, another in 1860, another in 1867. There were more editions from then on until his death. The lines I'm sharing are from, I believe, the last edition of 1892. And so his signature poem is this poem called Song of Myself. It's separated into 52 stanzas. The hebdomal, which is a word for weekly, 52 weeks of the year. These are the first 2 stanzas, or excuse me, this is the first stanza and the last stanza of Song of Myself, in an attempt to inspire you and set the theme for the course. And so these are the words of Walt Whitman. "I celebrate myself and sing myself, and what I assume you shall assume, for every atom belonging to me as good belongs to you. I loaf and invite my soul, I lean and loaf at my ease, observing a spear of summer grass. My tongue, every atom of my blood, formed from this soil, this air, born here of parents, born here from parents the same, and their parents the same. I now, 37 years old, in perfect health begin, hoping to cease not till death. Creeds and schools in abeyance, retiring back a while, sufficed at what they are, but never forgotten. I harbor for good or bad. I permit to speak at every hazard. Nature without check, with original energy. So that's how he starts. And I love it mentions schools. So, but it has this interconnectedness. I am doing a little analysis, right? Has this interconnectedness. I didn't make myself bigger, so I will now. And then this is how it ends. And this is both a great a way to begin the class and a great way to end the class because we begin as we end as we begin. And there's a cyclical nature to the whole thing. But after 52 stanzas of his gab and loitering, he writes this. The spotted hawk swoops by and accuses me. He complains of my gab and my loitering. I too am not a bit tamed. I too am untranslatable. I sound my barbaric yawp over the roofs of the world. The last scud of day holds back for me. It flings my likeness after the rest, and true as any of the shadowed wilds. It coaxes me to the vapor and the dusk. I depart as air. I shake my white locks at the runaway sun. I effuse my flesh in eddies and drifted in lacy jags. I bequeath myself to the dirt to grow from the grass I love. If you want me again, look for me under your boot soles. You will hardly know who I am or what I mean, but I shall be good health to you nevertheless, and filter and fiber your blood. Failing to fetch me at first, keep encouraged. Missing me one place, search another. I stop somewhere, waiting for you. So, there you have it. Hope you enjoyed it. See you around the classroom. Welcome or goodbye, depending on the context.